Hey up, welcome or welcome back to the world of motorcycles and homespun philosophy. Before we get started, can I thank today's sponsor AOC TFT Systems, a great bit of kit which I have fitted to all of my motorcycles, giving me Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, tyre pressure monitoring, GPS and most importantly to my mind constant high definition video recording front and rear, and all at a very affordable price, made even more so through the huge 28% off that you can currently get by following the link in the description section of this video. Right, let's crack on. This ride will soon take us on the stunning Ingleton to Hawes Road. Now, the beauty, if that's the right word, of getting to a certain time of life is that there is more time to look back over the arc of one's personal history and reflect upon the changes which have played out over several decades. For better or for worse, these changes collectively focus the mind on the big questions, such as why we are where we are now and why we were once somewhere else. I've long believed that we have gradually become conditioned to accept a certain narrative about the world through the divisive and manipulative endeavours of the mainstream media. A narrative, it seems to me, which will not rest contented until we are forced from our motorcycles and into the confines of our 15-minute cities. To support this narrative, we have seen an endless stream of legislative measures with the sole aim of controlling, mandating and proscribing what we do, say and sometimes even think. In their operation they leave no room for reason, proportionality and perhaps more importantly discretion on the part of those poor unfortunates charged with dispensing our social medicine. Discretion is a word which to my mind goes hand in hand with all matters of legal and regulatory enforcement, or at least it should do. The popular imagination often conceives of the law as a monolithic and mechanical entity, a set of immutable rules applied with robotic precision. In this idealized vision, justice is blind, her scales perfectly balanced by the unwavering weight of codified statutes. Yet this image obscures a more complex and human truth. Interwoven throughout the entire legal apparatus, from the beat cop on the street to the highest appellate court, is the vital and often contentious thread of discretion. Discretion is the authorized power to make choices within a defined legal space. It is the soul of the law, breathing life into rigid texts and allowing the abstract ideal of justice to adapt to the intricate tapestry of human circumstance. The exercise of discretion begins at the law's most immediate point of contact with society: law enforcement. A police officer, upon witnessing a minor traffic offence, is not a mere automaton programmed to issue a summons or to make an arrest. The law by necessity grants them the latitude to consider context. Is a warning more educational and effective than a fine? Does the situation demand de-escalation rather than confrontation? This prosecutorial discretion continues up the chain, where prosecutors must decide which cases to pursue, which to plea bargain, and which to drop. But I've come to realise that this quality has been delivered almost unto oblivion in recent years, and is now rarely practised other than in matters affecting the wealthy, privileged and powerful, who can always either buy discretion or mandate it when they find themselves, shall we say, compromised. Now, at the risk of sounding like Uncle Albert again, I clearly recall discretion being offered to ordinary people back in the 1980s, when I found myself charged with the onerous duties of office and bestowed with many warranted powers on the streets of this land. Having power does not always oblige its execution when the transgression is a minor one. At police training school, the requirement to fully understand the complexities of the law and its attendant powers left little room for notions of discretion, but during that training there was much in the manner of its delivery which inferred, whether through the absence of one thing or the inclusion of another, that alternative methods of dealing with any given situation could at least be considered amongst a range of possibilities. I see precious few examples of this principle operating in today's world. The supreme irony is that discretion, as operated at the lower strata of society, is discouraged on the basis of its potentially leading to corruption, whereas at higher levels it frequently operates as corruption, whilst masquerading as discretion or pragmatism. It's become more and more clear to me that we exist now in a world of two-tier enforcement. The term two-tier policing has become relatively commonplace in the 21st century rhetorical space, but I prefer to say enforcement, because the phenomenon is not confined to policing. No, it extends far more broadly into our modern world, where it seems that everything must be codified and thereby shaped by the powers that shouldn't be. Fair taxation, for example, extends only so far up the social ladder until a point is reached where it becomes too much like hard work for the authorities to enforce the law, and we bottom feeders are required to pay a premium for their operational laziness. The greatest danger, I believe, in this brave new world of bone-idle, anodyne, plastic leaders is that we have become the low-hanging fruit ripe for picking, and that eventually that fruit of our labours and endeavours will be fully harvested until we are left with nothing, whilst a tiny few enjoy ever more burgeoning coffers. If you ask me when that noble art of discretion began its death throes, it was, I believe, at some point in the late 1980s, when the so-called performance culture began to infect the hitherto sacrosanct world of public services. When policing seemingly overnight morphed from a public service of largely good-hearted crown servants into a near dystopian reflection of the newly deregulated financial sector, where numbers counted for everything and righteousness for nothing. That's where discretion died, and it has remained dead ever since. I recall well the sudden appearance into policing of so-called key performance indicators, and a transitioning away from the traditional, often nuanced processes of staff appraisal into a system where hard numbers were measured against targets, and a failing officer could quickly become a rapidly succeeding one simply by making enough arrests or issuing enough tickets. Almost overnight, police officers previously regarded as being a liability suddenly became an asset, as a few otherwise talentless individuals ruthlessly exploited the numbers game and were thus able to appear superficially to be high achievers when the opposite was the case. The sad fact is that the chain of command were content to tolerate this abomination because, as a system, it delivered against their own individual and departmental targets. In some cases, which achieved notoriety at the time, figures were manipulated in order to give an overinflated picture of performance. Yes, the age of discretion died at the hands of an ideologically driven political class who, through the adoption of schoolboy performance metrics, delivered the final blow to traditional policing methods. All that bean counters will ever do is count beans because beans are easy to count. Counting truly honourable deeds, or rather measuring and valuing them, well, now that's just too hard. The relationship between discretion and the law is one of essential paradox. The law aspires to consistency, yet demands flexibility. It strives for impartiality, yet relies on human judgment. Discretion is the mechanism that resolves this tension. It is the tool that allows the law to be more than a blunt instrument, to be wise, merciful and context aware. While its potential for misuse requires vigilant checks and balances, its increasing absence will and has created a jurisprudence of stunning cruelty and absurdity. A system where the letter of the law kills, but the spirit is nowhere to be found. Ultimately, discretion is the acknowledgement that justice is a human pursuit, and to remove the human capacity for discernment is to remove its very heart. We live in the age of easy solutions to complex problems, not because they are easy solutions, but because our leaders over many years now have become both intellectually lazy and increasingly narcissistic. Honourable mission, direction and responsibility has all but vanished. We feel leaderless and rudderless. To paraphrase the words of a Pete Seeger song, where have all the leaders gone? Long time passing. Where have all the leaders gone? Long time ago. Where have all the leaders gone? Turn to grifters, everyone. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn? Al City. Once again, a sincere and heartfelt thank you for watching and listening to this, my latest video here on the Bingley Wheeler channel. If you'd like to support what I do and help me to continue uploading this kind of content, then please would you consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. It's only with a healthy, steady growth of subscribers that I can continue with my work, and if you would just click that completely free of charge now and forever subscribe button, click a like and feel free to share this video, I will be eternally grateful. And with that, I'll wish you safe riding and I'll see you on the next one.